Hi, I believe we're live.
Hello,
Hi.
hello, hello.
Well, I'm Irina Baker, and we just had a technical difficulty because I am still new on this live particular. I recently signed up for this particular OneStream live, and I'm still trying to find my way around. So I clicked the wrong button, and the event I scheduled yesterday actually disappeared and stopped, and we had to do all over again. So here we go, just live without anything. And I invited a lot of people on LinkedIn, and that apparently that event doesn't exist anymore. Oh well. So here is the life lesson for you, or teaching point as I call it. When the things like this happen, and in fact a lot, we usually blame on tech. In fact, I will tell you a little bit cultural moment here. A long time ago in the former Soviet Union, our post office didn't work really well, or at least we believe that. And so every time that we something would happen, we would always blame it on the post office. We'll say, "Oh, it's post office. Oh, it's post.
We do
I
that here
didn't
in
send
America
it."
too. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, I didn't send it, but yeah, post office didn't work. So the same here, we blame it on tech. So we blame it on tech right now. But the teaching point here is, when you don't know divine guidance, you will be struggling and suffering and being stressed and upset. And when you know that it's just a resistance and divine is with you, but you're resisting inside, well, then you will know what to do, because when you recognize it, when you accept it, it's gone. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a little bit of teaching here. Okay, now we start, and I hope people will see, and I will connect the chat. This is something I always forget to do, so we'll see how it goes again. I have no idea right now who
Let's
is
just have
watching.
fun.
Yeah, I don't even know who is watching. I don't see anything here to tell me who is watching. So if you're watching, please write some kind of comment, then at least I could see maybe somebody's there. Okay, here we go. I'm here with my dear friend and business colleague, Bernadette Georgie. Hi, Georgie. Hi, Bernadette.
Thank you.
I'm right now
So
all over
happy to
the
be
place.
here. Actually, this is a cute name for a woman. I might take that as a nickname.
Well, I have a friend. She's in New York, and you live in New Jersey. So my friend in New York, her name is Georgiana, and we call her Georgie. And so I told you when I met you, I'm like, okay, I have Georgie last name and Georgie the first name and the nickname. And so we're all about Georgie.
Good things come
And
in twos.
that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
So Bernadette is actually, she has a lot of titles and a lot of experiences in her life, and I will tell you why she's here. So first of all, she is the founder of Fit Italian and Fit Italian. I mean, Fit Italian Travel.
Mhm.
She used to be a fashion and makeup celebrity stylist in Hollywood, and she's a former ballerina, and she's two, I cannot get over it, two second black belt in karate, and she's the owner of Pilates and yoga studio now in New Jersey. She's also, we all call her Italian Martha Stewart. So she has a lot of experiences behind at her belt, or whatever they say, how they say it about the belt, the second degree karate belt.
Yeah.
And we were just, this is not an interview. That's why I'm allowing myself to ramble and just be informal, because this is not scripted. This is not informal. This is just something that we came up yesterday because we were just chatting on the phone on FaceTime. And we started talking, of course, about our favorite subject and favorite subject of Bernadette's from now on, right? From
Mhm.
recently. And suddenly we both like, oh, this is an interesting conversation that people might want to hear and learn from, because we're talking about our experiences, and it's not everybody knows it, unfortunately. And so we said, okay, let's just jump on live with all the resistance that has been today about the tech, and let's just do it. So here we are. We're going to talk, and I hope you will enjoy it because it's
We
fun.
do. We do.
We do, right?
Right.
I would like to start our conversation with this point that Bernadette, I have never been in organized religion. For 3 years, I attended Christian Scientist Church, but it's not like the big one, like Christianity per se, Orthodox or Catholicism, right? Something like this. So Bernadette has a strong religious background. She's been raised Catholic. She's been really devoted Catholic before, right? Now, not so much. She still prays. She still has strong connection with God, but I believe you're not as much on the
I'm not
religious.
actively, as they say, I'm not an actively practicing Catholic.
Okay, not actively practicing Catholic. Good to
Something
know,
else.
right? Because we all have different names, different labels, so everybody's different, and
Some people
nobody
say
wants
recovering Catholic.
what Catholic?
A recovering Catholic.
Recovering Catholic. Yeah, yeah. I know somebody who's recovering from Mormon Church, from
Yeah.
LDS. So we have recovering Catholic. Okay, and so in Catholicism, there are signs as well.
Hmm.
But when I say divine guidance, some people who are with a strong religious background, they're a little bit scared of me.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's true or not, but they're like, oh, maybe we don't want to go there. So how is it? But I do know there are signs in all religions.
Right.
So let's start there. What
I
about that?
I think that if it's not dictated the way either the structure of the religion, for instance, the Roman Catholic Church has rules and rituals, and if that doesn't fit into that box, then people become afraid. Is it sacrilegious? Am I sinning? Do I need to go to confession? Those kind of things, because all those rules are rooted in fear.
Right.
And I used to think of it, okay, it's a good discipline, because I'm a big believer in mindfulness. So, for instance, this is Lent right now, right? So people give things up for Lent. And I look at it as a way to be mindful that when you're, I don't know, let's say I gave up chocolate and you maybe go for that chocolate, maybe you say a prayer and say, oh, I decided to fast on chocolate for the next 40 days, something like that. But people take it to the extreme of they're going to go to hell, they need to go to confession, they're sinning. So I think that's where that fear comes in, or if it doesn't present itself the way we've been taught, like in the Bible, or like I mentioned earlier, like those epic movies of the Ten Commandments or The Robe or any of those amazing movies that really have really great stories, and they've really great morals to those stories, but people miss that whole point of those stories, right? Because they're more about a teaching point than actual history. So yeah, so I think that's why there's a fear. And for me, I've always been searching as a little girl, and as soon as I remember, I mean, as a little girl, remembering if God is my dad, and my dad was the most loving, wonderful man, why would God, my father, have a little baby born with sin, and if you don't baptize this baby, he's going to hell? And like I would look at like my baby brother, for instance. I was 3 when he was born, and my mom would baptize him in the kitchen sink because she didn't want him to go to hell. And I thought, I mean, even as a little child, I knew that that's something. I would look at my dad, and my dad would never do that. So there's like so many disconnects, but I think people hold on to those things out of fear, and it doesn't encourage them to explore on their own. So when you say divine guidance, that language isn't even something, it's God the Father, the Almighty, and that's it. So
Mhm.
I think that makes people stop and put a wall up. But I've always had that natural curiosity because I felt like there was so much um, disconnect and so much what's the word I'm looking for? There's no congruency in what we're teaching and what they're telling us God is. So for me, I was attracted to that phrase, divine guidance and signs.
Mhm. And when we met, you did not know much about that. I mean, I'm sure every single person, every single woman has some kind of experience with science, right?
Mhm.
Maybe at least once in your life. I mean, whoever is watching, once in a life, you must have said it must be a sign, right? A lot of movies are about science.
Mhm.
And in fact, interestingly enough, every time I watch a movie with a sign, usually I like Hallmark movies. So I'm sitting there watching, and this woman has signs going around her. She will always have a well-meaning friend who will tell her that she's crazy, that this is all nonsense, the universe is chaotic, and there are no signs, and it's not real. I just watched it actually yesterday about some interesting experiences the woman was having, and everybody around her, including her parents, including her best friend, were telling her that she was crazy. And of course, the movie proved that she was not crazy. Everybody believed afterwards. But she had to go through those experiences to prove herself and stand her ground and say, hey, that was not crazy. That's actually real. And so for you, when we met, you were attracted immediately when I couldn't help myself, right? I yap about science all the time. I don't care if people like it or not. I'm just very fascinated with it.
So I was attracted to you first by that you always wear beautiful colors.
Oh,
And as a stylist, you know just what to do with your skin color. Your makeup always looks beautiful. It was our first day at a mastermind. And I was like, this woman really has her, because some people show up in just sweat clothes. Like so you can tell about people the way they dress. And it's not a judgment. It's just like, it's a little bit of insight. And I was like, women tend to really stay away from color, including myself. So when I saw that beautiful blue you had on, it was pink that day. You wore pink that day. And I thought, that is so bold and so beautiful. And it attracted me immediately. And then when we started talking, I felt like I couldn't get enough of what you were saying. And then more, and so I guess you felt the energy that, oh, I want more. Tell me more. So we got and became instant friends just out of my really. I knew when you were talking the truth. It wasn't like, well, I believe, it wasn't wishy-washy. It was like you were telling me the truth, and I felt it. And I'm a, lover of the body and teach movement, and that our bodies give us signals. And I felt it. It wasn't just like, oh, this is a nice woman. Oh, I like what she's sharing. No, it wasn't that. It was like, I felt you telling me the truth. And that's what made me. And I've always delved into other things, science of mind and mysticism and the Kabbalah. I just felt like there's pieces of the story we're not getting. And your piece was the missing piece that I felt like. It doesn't matter what your theology is, how you were raised. If you believe in God, then why would God be sitting on a cloud and not communicating with us at all? Just, leave us to be sinners and burn in hell or purgatory or all of those things. That never made any sense to me. So learning about signs and how God really speaks to us, or angels, or, that whole encompassing the spirit world, was that answer that I was looking for, is that little piece of the puzzle that made all the difference, completed the picture for me.
and it's interesting that I didn't realize you'd never told me that you were attracted to colors and you were attracted to my clothing because, well, we didn't talk about it. So that's something new I right now learned. But that's also an interesting point because divine speaks in different ways and through different methods.
Right.
So you were attracted to colors because that's your language. You've been in colors, you've been in art, you've been in all this creative side for all your life. And
Our garden,
so that's,
everything is about color. Yeah.
yeah, that's what the attraction started, because it was speaking through the colors, but it was divine guidance.
It's a bold statement too, because I find that women hide. Like, I feel like that as women, we want to trust our instincts. We want to be authentic. And color or is very ornate. Like it brings us alive, right? So but we all kind of, oh, will that make me look fat? Oh, will it show my belly or my butt or all these crazy things? But I felt like you going out into the world in a bright color was like, here I am. This is me. This is Irina, and I really love that. I really love
Oh,
that.
nice, nice. Something I'm hearing, the whole world is hearing.
Well, it's the truth, though. I mean, look, I spend my day in black, and it started out in dance. We always had to wear a black leotard, and then when I worked on the set, it's very important that you couldn't, the glam squad or the stylist, we couldn't be seen. You don't have any light reflecting on us. So then it just became my uniform. You know, it wasn't really that I don't like color. It just became a habit. And you brought me out of that too, because you know, I love colors. My studio has some beautiful greens and wood tones, and so does my home. But for some reason, I just kind of just kept with that whole black uniform thing. And I think it's a sign, like I said, of women like hiding a little bit, like hiding their light. And you don't do that. So I love that about you. And
Oh,
and you encourage that in other women, which I love too. It's important.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't even think about it, and here we are.
here we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to divine guidance. So you told me that you got used to, or people got used to, let's say they went for the sign as a burning bush, right? What are other examples that people could recognize? Because I pray and I have to have this big sign, bigger than the earth sign, than everything, right? So what are they? Burning bush, what else?
Yeah. So, you know, like when the angel came to Mary and said, "You're pregnant," that's a big one. You know,
They were loud, right? With the
right, right. And
trumpet,
you
with
can't,
the
like, if you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a huge, you know, archangel Michael standing there with wings and the halo and, oh, you know, the heavens opening up. You
celestial songs, right?
know, yeah, the heavens are singing hallelujah. Um,
The Red Sea parts.
the Red Sea parting. Well, even before that, though, you know, God said, you know, Moses, you're going to cross the sea, you know, or take my people out of Egypt. And so in the movie, it's that beautiful voice, Moses, you know, and how
Right,
can he hear that? And even the story of baby Jesus and his parents when they left Egypt, right? So he heard it in a dream, but it was very specific. Or when Moses was it Moses or Abraham was visited by the three angels, was three strangers came and he knew immediately that. So there's all these stories in the Bible. And I've learned now that, and I love the Bible because there's so many lessons there, but I really think they're metaphors. I don't, I don't put God in a box. If God's going to send you an angel, you're getting an angel. So, you know, I believe recently I was visited by a little tiny priest dressed in white. I've never seen a priest dressed in white ever. And when I started speaking to him, I was like, all right, this is not a normal conversation. So I believe that can happen because God is omnipotent, so he can be anywhere and do anything.
but in this case, it's still you had to be aware of it. You still had
Yes.
to felt it. You said, "Oh, something is not." So you were already perceiving how we perceive science. You already started on that subject, right? But actually, we're talking about big sign that real angel shows up.
Yeah, I
How
remember you laying in bed
big
and
that
saying, I keep praying and I go to confession and I played guitar mass with my brother and sister. Like I was really devout and I couldn't understand why, not that the people in the Bible aren't great, but why would God choose them? Like, so if he's the father, why would he choose only some people to speak to and not others? Like, but as a father, you love all your children. So I was always a thinker like that. Like, why? None of that makes any sense to me. And I realized again that those stories, while they could have happened, most likely it was a knowing, or they had such a close relationship with God that when they heard his voice in their heart or somewhere in their mind, it was like, oh, I recognize that's God's voice. And if you read those stories with that knowing, it says that they recognize God's voice. So for me now that I understand that, it's very subtle. And I'm always the type of person that I'll say, let's say I was praying for, I don't know, something at the studio. Let's say I need to make a big decision. And then I rush off because I'm waiting for it to get hit in the head or the angel to be meeting me at the door of the studio. Hey, Bernadette, you need to do this, this, and this. And it doesn't work like that. Especially for me, because if I have the information, I take it and run with it. I don't wait for God to speak. So that's been my journey. My journey is I don't be still and wait, you know, and just really like. And so I had a couple experiences where if you hadn't worked with me, probably I would have recognized it, but too late. Like a series of things would have happened. I'd be like, oh, maybe that meant XYZ, you know. But because we've been working together, your teachings are bold, but God's voice is quiet, so that we have to really pay attention. You know, what is that saying? If you want to catch someone's attention, whisper. So every time I now feel like I want to tune in, God's whispering. He's not yelling, Moses. No, it's not like that at all.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
all
burning
those
bush comes. The burning bush comes in a. It could be a little branch. It wouldn't be a big fire.
yeah, and I think about that story a lot because Moses was so in love with God. Was it? No, it was Abraham. No, Moses. I forget who. It was Abraham. That it probably was a burning. Like, how would he describe that? How would he describe going up to the mountain to give his time to God? How would he describe that? It was probably this burning, like, desire and passion, And so the
Yeah,
bush,
that was Moses for sure.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the commandments. That's right. Yeah.
Right, right. But still, we need to remember that the angel most likely will not show up. And some people claim that ascended masters come to them in their bedroom, and angels come and they say, well, whatever their experience, I don't want to comment on that or judge anything. But if you don't hear things like that, if you don't have tremendous big experiences, it doesn't mean you don't have divine guidance. So let's talk about how you started. Remember how you asked me, how do you tune in? What was your question? How you said.
I was frustrated with myself because I realized that, like I just said, my reaction was delayed. So in other words, now if someone pops into my head, I call them or text them. And I've heard that before from other, spiritual teachers, but I really didn't take it to heart because I'm always thinking about people. I mean, I have so many clients, like I feel like I would be on the phone all day. But there's a specific feeling I need to call that person. And that's what I was asking you. I was like, you could be inundated with quote unquote signs. So I asked you, like, I'll say, oh, I knew that was going to happen, but how can so I think that was God nudging me because I feel like I was aware, but it was like a minute too late. And so you were starting to make me realize I had to be open to it, that I must not have been open to that's how God speaks. It almost felt like a trick. Like I kind of got a little knowing, like, oh, so and so, this is going to happen. And then 3 days later, it happens. It's like, oh, I could have done something about it, or at least I was aware.
Mhm.
So like I call it my entry drug. It was like my entry lesson. And I realized when we met, I must have been ready for the next step.
Right.
Because I had been searching for a really long time and was very devout. I believe in God. I started to believe that I needed to do something, but it's the not doing. It's the stopping and listening, and I don't think that you can do that on your own. I think there's some special people. You said that no one taught you per se, and I think that it's a very difficult journey if you don't have a mentor or someone to say, okay, this is what it is. This is how God speaks. This is how life works. I'd probably been still searching for another, I don't know, 10 or 20
Right,
years.
right. I don't know why. I was always wondering why I don't have a spiritual mentor, why I keep but I obviously do from above, and
Right.
it's a strange journey for me because I've been just fed the step by step, very slow, step by step, steady for 30 years. So it's interesting point you made.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes. I when I started 95. I didn't start immediately with all the big understanding and everything, right? I had to develop my system gradually. I was introduced to it from the above, but then I had to see it myself. In other words, I had to build the muscle. And you are in the physical world, right? In a physical fit world. So you know that you cannot just start from one session to the second session and you already buff, you already built very physically
Yeah.
fit, right?
No, it's all skills. It's all skills, and the muscles have to be prepared. Yeah. No, you're
Right.
100%.
You have to train the muscle. And so that's how you do it. You train your awareness because you have to tune in. And people are tuned into the physical world. They're tuned in. So when you live in the physical, you're completely focused on the physical. So when you focused on the physical, you're missing the spiritual because you're focused on the physical. And some people maybe describe it as a radio, right? I describe us as broadcasters because it's one thing, but we're not talking about that right now. But it's also the other way. You have to be tuned into the receiving side, because
Right.
every microphone in business you buy, right? We buy microphones, and there is a receiver and there is a transmitter, or at least when wireless, I'm talking about wireless mic. And so the receiver is when you have to tune into the spiritual side of the world, and you have to be really paying attention, and that comes with awareness. So everything I do is about increasing awareness, because if you've been aware all your life on the physical only, then you're not aware of what's going on
You
outside,
know
and you
anything?
will not pick.
I want to clarify
Mhm.
that though, because being so physical, um, your body talk to you, but it talks to you from the inside out. And so, yes, we're very tuned into stuff and how things are going to feel and how things are going to look and taste. And I want more stuff and stuff and stuff. But really, like I said to you, like when I met you, I felt something that I feel like we're so conditioned to the external world out here that we forget that it's, I mean, even Jesus said
Right,
that kingdom's within.
right.
And we're looking for all these things, whether it's the burning bush or the new car or alcohol, shopping, whatever it is, it's all out there. And in order to train yourself to be aware of the signs, it's the inside, it's that feeling, it's that knowing God's voice,
But
right? Right.
that's already awareness of the spiritual world, because spiritual world will talk through the physical
Exactly.
on the inside. When I talk about physical, it means I'm talking about outside. It's good to hear everybody else's perception, right? How you described it. So physical outside world, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
People are focused on the outside world,
Yeah,
but
I knew
it's
what you meant.
actually,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I want to clarify even for me because working the physical, like I see people come into the studio and there is a very spiritual element. But people think it's just yoga, but anytime you're working on your body, it is a spiritual journey, right? This is our temple, and this is how we travel through our life, and you want to take care of it and honor it. And I listen to women criticize the outside, and inside they're crumbling. They're on all kinds of antidepressants, and sometimes I can smell alcohol on them, and I'm not judging. It makes me, I literally pray over them because I feel like for that hour they're in my care. And I want them to stop the crazy, and if they tuned in, they would realize, yes, this, let's say, hour of exercise feels really good. Let me continue to tune into that feeling. And they just like, okay, check, burned 100 calories, okay, check. So I think that we've all, as a culture, especially for women, i, I believe women have an extra sense, an extra sensitivity that we're literally taught to not listen to, that we're
right.
just, and I think that your work is very timely, that people are starting to tune into feminine energy and softer side of life. And, it's not just a man's world anymore, those kinds of things. And I think for women, especially, and women in business, being in a man's world is especially important for not just her success, but her fulfillment and her purpose in the world. It's not just
Exactly.
the money success, which is important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, how was your experience generally? Tell me, first of all, you just recently, and I did not ask you if I could say it or not. I'm going to be bold and say it. You don't need any details. We don't need to disclose any details. But what I want to say, you mentioned something yesterday. Well, you just recently went through a very intense experience. Let's
Mhm.
say it just this way. I'm not, we don't need to go further. So you went through a very intense experience. You were very bold, and you had to make a very, very serious decision that affected lives of many, including yours. And you had to do it in a very bold way. And you said 30 days prior or several, some period prior, you started getting signs. And because you already are aware of signs, of course, you with me a lot, so you cannot be not aware of signs, right? When I'm yapping about signs all the time. So tell us about that. How did it enrich your experience and how did it make it easier?
Yeah, so I think that what I just said about women not listening to that little extra sense, I think for me, my Catholicism and my Italian culture of women, being subservient to the man, I realized that that doesn't fit my personality. I love my culture, but not how, and that's changed over the years, but I was raised by very old school Roman Catholic Italians. So I felt like I was seeing signs and not recognize them. So fast forward now to this 30 days prior to my big event, I did have to get hit in the head. And had you not been coaching me, it would have just been another stressful event. But I use that now as my anchor because it was so traumatic that and I don't believe God hits us on the head. I believe that he speaks to us through these events. And I knew to do something and I didn't do it, and it bothered me for 24 hours, and I almost could have predicted what could happen, and it did, only worse. And I literally wake up every morning and thank God that that happened and that through his grace, nothing bad happened. While it was happening, it was horrible. But that experience gave me, and then you graciously sat with me. We were supposed to talk about something else, and you gave me this 2-hour session where I literally felt like my heart was being ripped out, not by you, but it was like I had to get this all out. And you stayed with me and said, we're getting to the core, we're getting to the core, we're getting to the core. And I said, I just blurted out. Like I wasn't like, I was dancing around it like I do everything. And you said, no, I want the core. And I blurted out, I didn't listen to God. And it was the first time I could cry saying it because it was such a profound moment that you stayed with me in a way that you didn't coddle me. Oh, that was horrible, this and that. And it was, but you stayed with me so I could recognize what happened. And I don't know if you knew what the answer was, but you knew I had the answer. I just didn't dig deep enough. And from that on, when I had to make this next big decision, I call that event now my anchor. Like if I'm not sure, because I was so upset, it was a very physical experience. I refer back to that. I don't have to get sad and all that again, but to remind myself what God's voice sounds like. And it's this knowing, and it's a feeling, and everybody has that gut feeling. And but we're not told to listen to it, and all those old sayings, trust your gut. What does your gut tell you? Your gut talks to you.
And just to add to this, all this time you thought you listened to God. I mean, you constantly talking to God. You praying to God every morning. You have a special routine about that.
Mhm.
If I ask you what's your relationship with God, you would say, "Oh, I have great relationship." And then it took you how long? Many years of your life to get to
I
this
mean, I'm gonna
point,
be
and then
at the end of the month. I mean, it took a really long time, but it was a one-sided relationship. I would ask for something. It was like asking for a gift, getting it, and then either not even seeing that it arrived, or it didn't arrive the way I think the big thing was it didn't arrive the way I expected it. I wanted the burning bush. I wanted Archangel Michael to come down and hug me or whatever, the heavens open up. And that's not, I mean, I said, I think God can work that way, but that's not how he works. It would first of all create chaos. Can you imagine everybody having angels arrive and talking to them like that? But then it's more subtle, and then that creates a different type of relationship. When I've experienced, you call it green light flow. I never recognized that that's what it was. I can now look back, and I think when people start to learn your method and your teaching, I think that you can then stand here and go, oh yeah, I remember that time I was in a flow. Like everything just became so easy. And my decision really wasn't hard. It was the logistics that I thought was going to be hard. And I mean, nothing. There was no, that I was just in that flow. And it's funny because we use that term all the time in yoga. And this yoga is not a flow compared to this. Yoga is a struggle. When we do what we call it.
Nice to hear from the yoga master. Nice to hear.
It's but there's beauty in that, right? There's beauty in just pushing through. And but see, that's what I'm used to, is pushing through.
Right.
And I think the ultimate lesson for me is, because everything I've done physical is tough. I love to run. I'm a 2nd degree black belt. I was a ballerina till my feet bled. I teach Pilates, I teach yoga. These are all things that test you physically and mentally, but you have to push. And the real way to do yoga is not to push the way we Americans do it. We make it into a sport. Same with karate, believe it or not. We make everything about hard, push, push, push. And when I met you, what did I say? I'm the bull. So I'm always about putting my head down, horns out, and just go. And I've learned that I've made my life harder by doing that. So as one of my clients said, I'm in the back 9. It's a golf term. I'm in the back 9 of my life. So finally, on the back 9, I've learned that it doesn't have to be hard. There's going to be challenges and lessons, but that hard push, where you feel like you're beating yourself up is not, you don't have to do that.
Right. Because your intense experience was, you were prepared already with the science, right? So since you mentioned it, one was the first experience, then we had grace period, so to speak, to prepare, and then there was another experience.
I feel like that grace period was preparing me.
Right, exactly. And so you said to me yesterday that there was science. Well, I've been there every day, but looking back, all the signs, and you already started recognizing them. So you already signs leading to the big event, and that big event, it was exactly in a green light flow.
Right.
And it was, yes, we always say it doesn't mean you sit on your butt and do nothing and just pray. You don't, because, well, you do up to the point, and then you have to take the actions. But those actions, as you experienced yourself for the first time in your life, right, were so in the flow, it was just going, no pushing.
And I think that too is that once you know, you can't unknow it. Once you see, you can't close your eyes again. And so I was living with a situation where nothing, and me being so in tune with my body, nothing was feeling right before that pre-event. But I kept saying, all my Catholic things. Well, you're judgmental. Well, you're being negative. Well, you need to pray for this person. Well, are you really loving? Are you really? And I was questioning over and over again, almost like I was questioning what God was telling me to do. But I was given grace, And so by the time that pre-event happened, leading up to what my big decision, there really was no decision. I got up at 2:33 in the morning and I did what I had to do. And I think that wasn't that it wasn't easy, but when you know, but I probably would have, if you weren't coaching me through the process. And I want to be clear, you weren't telling me what to do. You were helping me see the path. The path was out in front of me. And so a good coach, and I say this with all due love and respect, I've had other, business coaches, that kind of thing. I've been in therapy for years. And I felt like you were giving me skills that I could then see, oh, there it is. And then I would report back to you. And I think that that's the most important part of your work, and but most important part of the journey is that we can still choose to ignore it, but you're going to keep getting those nudges. And if you don't listen, you're going to pay a price. Like my pre-event, I'll just real quick. I knew in my heart to do one thing, but I was getting resistance from everybody in my life. Like the movie you said that, the girl always has this, oh, they always had that one friend. Well, this happened to be someone that was really important to me. He's like, you're ridiculous. Just came out and said I was ridiculous. And not even 12 hours later, something terrible happened that I could have prevented. So I had that my burning bush heart. Like and then Catholic guilt came up, or the woman guilt of, well, he's right. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Oh, don't, and I started calling myself ridiculous. And no. So like I said, I was given grace that nothing bad happened, but something could have. And I know that. And I'm so, so, so grateful. And that's why I use that as my anchor, because I could have never lived with myself if something worse could have happened. I don't need to be, I don't need that. I need drama, but I don't need that kind of drama. So I feel very grateful, because I think I probably would have suffered long because of the guilt that I put on myself. And I don't believe that a loving God, Father, Almighty, Divine, that's love, wants us to suffer. I think we cause the suffering, and then we learn the lesson from it. And, I always say this is school. So I found a good teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what can we say from the last question I will ask for you, or maybe we can just say together that when your awareness is on a level that you are not tuned completely only on the outside world, but you actually take your attention and turn it back onto inner world, and you start really paying attention to what's going on around you on the inner level. Of course, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes knowledge, it takes somebody to understand, to explain to you how it's done. But then your life becomes so much easier and better, because you can follow along and be on the right path at all times. You don't stray and you don't resist. And when you resist, you can correct yourself and go and continue.
Yeah, I would agree. And I heard something recently from this mystical teacher. Being Catholic, we have to constantly be asked for forgiveness and go to confession, all those things. And for anybody that's raised Christian, we're sinners. And I take very comfort in knowing that the way he explained it is this: so sin is missing the mark. What happens when you miss the mark? You go a little closer. So I now see your work as when we mess up, we draw closer. And so by me not listening to God that first time, it forced me, or created my awareness. I'm stubborn, so I think it was forced me to see, and I drew closer. And then by drawing closer, I now have this awareness that why would I ignore it? What? Because something bad could have happened. But now I'm seeing good things happen. All of a sudden, I'm seeing my business. I mean, I doubled it. It's not even the 15th of the month yet, so because I'm listening, I'm not just doing and going, hey, want me over here? No, I'm asking, waiting for the sign or the voice, whatever, and then moving. And as a mover, that's not in my nature, but it feels better. It feels better than the manic. If you look at people the way they run out in this country, or around the world, running, what are we running from? Ourselves. We're running from like that night. When you said get to the core, I said I didn't listen to God. I was running from what I knew to be true. And I think that I would tell you every day that your work is, I love that you want to work with women in business, because I've had many experiences, and we talked on a podcast about my experience, in big business and QVC and all that. That's all male dominated. And there was this little Bernadette from New Jersey, like trying to conquer it. And I told you, had I known to listen, that's what it was, my experience would have been different. So I hope everybody dabs their toe into your stream of goodness and teachings, because I think that they'll definitely be blessed like I was.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you, Bernadette. Thank
No, I
you.
say that from my heart, sincerely.
And I'm glad because the results, we won't discuss again all details. We're finishing right now, but all the results that you're experiencing right now is so tremendous just because you started listening, you followed the divine guidance, and you were able to receive it, to ask for it, to receive it, and to follow through. And like you said, the business doubled and all other good things happened. So, and the result is actually beyond even your wild expectation because everything is good right now,
Mhm.
very, very good. And so that's the result. It's not just woo-woo topic we're discussing on the weekend, just let's read the book and forget about it and go about our
Yeah,
business
and
the
there's
same
still gonna be
way.
challenges. I'm not saying that because life is challenging. But what's fun is when you see a challenge, like you don't have to do it alone, and you don't, and there are skills and that we can learn. And it's actually now fun to see what the result's going to be instead of wishing, hoping, pushing, making it, all about. And now I understand, even like when I was a child learning about God's will, like I get all like it that your teaching was that little missing piece. It's not that those things are wrong, they just left out really important information. They left out a really important piece of the story. So I'm
Yeah,
grateful.
the real life experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what was left behind. Yeah. So, and that's how, well, basically you open the door to divine guidance, right? You got the keys to open the door to the divine guidance. And I would like to invite everybody, women entrepreneurs, to a masterclass. If you've heard Bernadette, we can tell now, usually in my Radiant Mastery Academy with my clients, when they experience something, a challenging experience, in the green light flow, they make things happen in the green light flow and get the best results. We call it a miracle story
Mm.
because, well, I started with my miracle stories, a lot of them because I'm following divine guidance like this. And then my clients started having it. So now we have an official term, a miracle story. So I could say right now that you have created this miracle story as well. So you have this initiation into miracle
Aw,
stories.
well,
And
thank
now
you.
you want to have everything done with as a miracle story, right?
Of
It
course.
actually it's actually addictive. Yeah, it's addictive
Yeah,
to
because you
do it this
created
way.
an awareness in me that it's everywhere. You just have to tune in. Like you said about the radio. You have to, it's there, it's out there. God, whatever you want to call it, divine, the energy is there. It's there for us to serve us and for us to co-create. We just have to tune into it and know that, and I know that
Right.
it's there. It's not God on a cloud somewhere. It's not out there, it's in here.
Right. Right. And I'm back to inviting everyone, women entrepreneurs. I'm inviting you to a masterclass. It's upcoming, it's next week. So, coming up fast. And it's called Three Keys to Open the Door to Divine Guidance. So, obviously, the title speaks for itself. Three keys, you will receive the major foundational topics or teaching points of how you also can unlock the door to divine guidance. Three keys to, I think, unlock, sorry. Three keys to unlock the door to divine guidance. Go to radiantmastery.com /masterclass and sign up. It's a nominal fee to make sure you're making a commitment to this, not only to this class, but actually to yourself, because internal resistance rises up because we do not want anything divine. We want just our own usual way, right? How Bernadette was not listening to God, even though she thought all her life. But you just have to go and accept that awareness that there is a way to change, to make your life better and manifest your miracle story. So again, radiantmastery.com /masterclass, and we will see you there. Thank you. And thank you, Bernadette. I believe we had a great conversation.
Absolutely. See you at the masterclass.
Yep. See you in masterclass. Bye, everyone.